Three things you never do whenever you're fighting against a fighter who actually has the size advantage. Instead of a lot of you getting to a place where you cannot close the distance on a boxer, or if you're in MMA, you have such a hard time closing the distance. I'm going to explain to you with my 4 decades in this game how you do not just follow the regular principles of prize fighting. You have to learn that this is a place where you have options. And once you start getting educated, you're going to learn in this segment right here why is it that you don't follow those rules, keeping your hands up. You go against the actual principles of fighting because you're not fighting amateurs anymore. You're fighting people who are fighting for a prize. So that's what I'm going to give to you tonight. And I don't care what you do, you don't do anything other than this. Before I start getting into how to close the distance on anyone that has the length advantage over you, the strength advantage over you, or if it's just time to strike and you need to know how to bring the smoke, and don't be hesitant about pressing the gas to get to that ass. That's all I got for that introduction. For all of you guys who are tuning in tonight. I want you guys to know that we're about to get into something truly good because we have one of our fighters that are actually fighting tonight on out here on out west, and it's going to be very important that you guys understand when we speak, always speak about brand. Because see, one of the things that matters is that people know about your stuff. That's why the school, that's one of the things that I take great pride in our school, and then I'm going to get directly into how to prevent anyone from keeping control in a boxing match or any fight. I've trained, I don't know how many MMA guys, but I was the last guy that Coach Davis spoke to when they were going out to fight Conor McGregor. I do this at the very highest level. There's nothing above what I do. So I just want for those of you who are brand new to understand you're not dealing with some internet guy. I mean, I got the credentials. So I want to make it clear that when you go into this sport, you have to understand the skills, the techniques, but you learn them in these facets. First, you go in and you want to make sure you master techniques. And once I explain to you about the techniques, and the actual requirements, then I'm going to get into the three things that you must always do. And then there's going to be a fourth bonus when you're closing a gap on a longer or a stronger fighter or someone who just needs to get their your imprint stamped on their ass. Okay, so that's what you're going to take. But remember, these things, they're vital when you box or you compete in combat at any level. Number one, this is what you need to learn. Number one, you need to learn technique. That's the first thing you'll need to take into that thing. And then once you understand how important technique is and the coach has kind of groomed you mentally, psychologically, then you want to understand skill. One, skill. One, remember the principle of Bruce Lee, form like water. Over and over, you do that skill. You don't do 1,000 skills one time. You do one skill 1,000 times because you have to get it into your muscle memory. And that's going to be one of the portions of the bonus that I'm going to share with you guys, because that bonus is going to refine everything that I give to you. Number three, once you understand technique and then you understand skill, the next progression up that ladder is learning skills in sets. It's just like when you are a baby and you learn to crawl, then you learn to stand with a little balance. And from there, you start focusing on what's the deal? What's with this walking thing? You start stumbling a little bit forward. But before you get into a complete solid walk, you will stumble. And from there, you'll start to walk and then start to jog and then your full blast run. That's the exact same analogy that I use for skill sets. Skill sets are when you can thread together footwork, defense, offense, counterpunching, all of those things in a beautiful package. That's skill sets. But pivoting, box step, circles, that's one circuit. So learn the actual principles of boxing and then the finite detail, because one without the other is just like learning mathematics, ABCs, but not going to the sixth grade and learn the next level where you start to learn the algebra, pre-algebra, and things of that nature. There are progressions. So you got to get that cognitive, that stuff when you have to have something to read. You can't just go out here and just try to fight without having principles down and things to put into your body. That's information that you got to receive and stamp into your hippocampus. Please don't over or don't compensate so hard in one area that you don't master the other areas, meaning when you are sitting down you can regurgitate out what you need to do because you read it. After you learn skill sets, now you understand that there's a concept. You start to understand concept. uh Yeah, fall back. We got one of our guys. He's fighting tonight. The UFC got matches tonight, and there's some boxing over in the UK. So we're gonna go over a little bit of that. So thanks for asking. Anyone else with questions, make sure you drop them in the comment boxes, and I'll get to them. If not on the show, what we'll do is definitely feed you comments, write and reply back. But one of the things that I have to do is I have to always keep my professor hat on because I own this. And when you got that, that's it. That's the highest level. And so that's what I'm explaining nugget by nugget. Once you understand concept, and guess what concept means? That means you actually have an understanding of what the basic and advanced forms of combat is. Now you have become a student. You had to work that hard just to become a student. Now you get to the next phase where you start to really get a grasp on the actual styles inside of the boxing ring or inside of that octagon. Whatever route you take, these principles apply. Trust me, they're applicable. So a lot of guys in MMA are still figuring this thing out because they haven't been set in that one thing for over 100 years, like boxing. We know what's required, and so that's why we own the bibles of this stuff. So when you get to the styles, those are the things that are very unconventional. They go against all the rules that you learn. So especially you're confused when you're in mixed martial arts, because they're like, hold up, they told me to keep my hands up, they told me to not drop my hands, and definitely never put my hand by my waist, and never square your feet up. But soon as you get into learning the styles of boxing, guess what? Lo and behold, peekaboo style, you're squared up in the Philly shell, one arm down, because this isn't boxing. This is prize fighting. Now you're fighting for a prize. It's no longer a boxing sport about touching a guy and getting points. It's about knocking a guy out cold and fighting for a bag of money. And in boxing, that bag gets really, really heavy. So one night, winning one fight can change the trajectory of your entire bloodline forever if you know how to manage money. So now you're there. But what happens after you learn styles, coach? What does that leave me in? Is that my style? No. This is what we call the point in phase where you get to phase 4. This is where you learn your craft in boxing. You made it your own after the thousands of hours committed to embedding this into your muscle memory. Now, see, these are the principles about that you will understand. And what I have to do is kind of give you more of a bird's eye view of who am I actually talking about? Well, you can go to the likes of someone who's gone through a progression from amateur ranks to the professional ranks. Let's take Andre Ward. Andre Ward was a celebrated, decorated amateur boxer who actually didn't lose a fight since the age of 13 years old. It was 12 or 13. Correct me if I'm wrong. Went through the rest of his amateur career without another loss. Went to the Olympics in 2004. Was coached by Virgil Hunter. My uncle was on the team coaching. 2004, he fought against a 6'6" guy who hadn't lost in 5 years. 6'6", Andre Ward, 6 feet even, a little bit over, might be 6'1" with good shoes on. Not only did he fight this guy in the gold medal round, silver medal round going to the gold, but he won the fight in a calculated manner. He understood principles, punching, throwing in combinations, overcoming your fears to letting your hands go. There are a lot of things and a lot of layers when you think about what Andre Ward brought to the game in the sport of boxing. It wasn't just this guy had good hand skills and a good IQ. There's a lot more because there are a lot of guys who have a good boxing IQ, but that doesn't mean they can actually pull the trigger. To be in there against a offensive juggernaut that has 6 inches on you in the amateur rankings, where people are going to notice your size first, so you're going to get a point for that. And to overcome all of that and then win, to go into the gold medal round and just take it, that's tremendous. He was the last male fighter to win a gold medal for the USA. That's different. Those skills don't quite transfer into the professional ranks. You have to develop yourself into a different sport. Boxing at an amateur level and boxing in a professional level is not the same thing. It's titled the same, but it's called prize fighting. They don't even like for you to use the term, boxing, fighting in the amateur ranks, because it's not fighting. You don't sit down on your punches. You don't claw your toenails into the canvas to hit a dude. You start feeling some of that when you get to the higher rankings of boxing, when you're going up against some of the better fighters in the world. You have to dig down when you're fighting on day 4, back-to-back killers. And then you're fighting on day 5, and you just don't have enough of that play boxing in you. So you start getting a little sprinkle of what it feels like to have to bite down on your mouthpiece and go mano a mano against a guy who's also feeling like that. And now it's a test of wills. Who actually wants it more? It's not even about skill at that point. And so that's the tread. And so now I'm going to give you the 3 things. Once I tell you that level of progression. Now, everything that you learned in the amateur boxing levels, these things have to be relearned in a much different way. You remember I said the most important thing as an amateur is technique, and then skills and set. Then you start understanding the concept of basic to advanced level boxing. Now you start back over from square one when you go into styles. That's when you're transitioning from the amateurs into pro. And it's no longer called boxing. They use the word, but it's not boxing. It's prize fighting. There's a humongous difference. It's the difference in saying, I'm going to travel. He's going to travel in a car. He's going to travel in a plane. Okay? It's a huge difference. When you travel in a plane, that's boxing. When you have to grind it out on the road, traffic, that's prize fighting. It's gritty. It's grimy. You got to go through stoplights. You got to fill up and go get gas. There's so many different ebbs and flows that go with traveling in a car opposed to just flying in a plane, one stop, one shop. All right. So hopefully you guys got your notepad out because we're about to get into the three things that you will need to know. But before that, I'm going to introduce you to my man Jermelle, who literally is in the school and is taking this fight very, very, very. Yeah, that's right. I appreciate you, Lewis. Yeah, it's key, man. This is what I've been doing for 4 decades, so it really is just experience and not being stupid. When you get to work and train at a world class level, man, what you get exposed to is just so different, and it's just so much. And I remember, just having guys prep to go into training camp to help Klitschko, and one guy got sent back like in one day. It's levels to this shit. If you don't bring any value to a camp, you gotta be able to beat the guy who they called you in to spar. If you're not putting in the kind of work that's required, you going home. Here's your $1,200. Get out of here. They don't have to even explain it. But I'm going to introduce you to our guy Jermelle Jones. And first of all, here's the fight card that he'll be on. And you see Chuck Liddell right there, and you got Jesse Taylor and Jermelle Jones. So special shouts out to those guys tonight. But he's about to get it
Over the
popping.
basic
So here's
work
Jermelle
stuff as my
talking
warm
about
up
the
every day. Just a
fundamentals
little
that he's
simple.
learned
I'm just going over the.
inside of the school and his experience. And it's important that you guys realize even pro fighters in MMA have to fall in love with the basics. And I love him talking about this. So check it out.
I'm just going over the basic footwork stuff as my warm up every day. Just a little simple box step. The Robinson, you know what I mean? Being able to go back for. I didn't know. I was kind of doing it before my athletic ability, but I didn't know. I didn't even have anybody to like really tell me what like the actual art of it and actually understand it and stuff. And now that I'm doing these drills, I'm telling you, I'm gonna be knocking out people even more. I'm just getting started. Like I was just like at first winging this left hand. You know what I mean? Now I feel myself springing into this thing. Like I got a different type of spring into it. I can't even explain it. I'm ready to like show
I understand.
and yeah, I got a spring to this punch now, like from my base. And
Yeah.
you know what I mean? It's just the fundamentals. Fighting isn't as technical as boxing. You know, so me just
Yeah.
taking a little bit of this stuff and just breaking it down and understanding it, it's opening me up tremendously. And now I'm using some of the stuff that clinch work, get inside to wrestle. So now I can get there, and now I'm in my world wrestling, and
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, just so grateful, man. I wanted to tell you,
Boom. And so when we mentor our guys like this, what you want to take away from this is that he understands he's knocking guys out. He started following our page about 4.5, 5 years ago. It was after a loss. And since then, he's blazed through everybody. Because one of the things about us is we're not like everybody else. We don't, our training system isn't like everybody else. There are a lot of people that have, hey, here, try my program. Ours isn't a program. It's not a damn course. We have a university, K through college, and then you go get your master's degree in boxing. And one day you'll be like me. You'll be writing the books and building schools yourself. And that's what this is. That's why when people come in, they just come in it and their whole life changes and they see the game with binoculars now opposed to just with regular eyeballs. They see so much more. It's so much more depth. Then you'll understand why you see those reels that I do, that they're just so much deeper. It's just not fluff. And when you apply that to your real boxing, you just kind of overshadow everybody. So he's fighting tonight on this card. When you standing next to guys like Chuck Liddell, you've gotten there. Regardless, I mean, you're on another level. You're fighting for it all. So We're going to tune into that this evening. Fortunately, they're 3 hours behind, so we have time to catch up. But my last thing is to make it clear to you guys, you trainers who are working with these athletes, these fighters, and our guys in the school are going through understanding how to brand yourself so that it's just not wearing the label of I fight. That's just one of the tasks that you've taken upon yourself. But when you understand how to build yourself with your chest out with your brand, the brand is your promise to the world, something that is going to be your consistency, that thing that permeates off of you, that when people see you, they know you for that. 25 people are asked about who you are. Explain who this guy is. And all of those people have something similar, even though they say it in a different way. When people are around you and when you leave, they're in a different mood. That's your brand. When you want to get on fight cards and you have a personal brand, when you want to do a business deal and you have a personal brand, there is a reason why Anthony Joshua, Canelo Alvarez, Conor McGregor, all of those guys who understand how important it is to put your voice and your face first. You are a movie star just in your own local vicinity, and then you start expanding your brand once you get really refined and people want to show up at your fights. And even when you fighting, they just want to show up because how are you? It's how you make them feel. If that's what you want your brand to be about, you got to commit to saying, what is it that when your mom pushed you out, separated you from the rest of everybody in your family, right? Especially if you're the black sheep, that means you are here to disrupt and do it different. Change the trajectory of your family, because every family at one point in time was broke. The richest of the richest, at one point in time, their family was broke. And lo and behold, then the one comes along. The one who changes everything. He puts the family on their back and he takes them from there to Mount Olympus because of his DNA strand, his personal brand. And you don't think people will line up to see you then? And that's what makes this thing so beautiful. Don't just fight. Go out there with your bloodline on your chest. And when people are in your presence, what they do is they smell your fragrance. They smell the aroma that comes off of you because you're just different. You don't have to fall in line anymore. You can be your own authentic self. And you don't try to appease to everybody then. Only appease to those who have the same belief system and they are attracted to you. You don't chase down people. You be your authentic self and people are drawn to you. And this is the same fabric that you use when you're in business if you got a company. You know, today I looked at our Instagram and it said we reached over 2 million accounts. 2 million this month. Like that's a lot of people. That's a lot of different accounts. That's just not like that's not just like views. That's accounts. That's serious. And this is not even one of my strong months. But the thing about it is that many people saw something, because you don't get those if people don't find something in you. So what is that thing that's in you that millions of people want to see? What is that thing? Because once you start believing in it and start locking into it and believing that the first day that you try to be there, it's not going to work. I had a post that did Like one like in the first hour. You know why? Because that one person is drawn to my authentic self. And then I got posts with 100,000 likes, 6, 7 million views, 10 million views. But see, when you call out your tribe, they are there not for all the bells and whistles, but for your frequency, your vibe. That's what you concentrate on. And when you start taking part in events and all of those kind of things, everybody's going to melt towards you. And that's all I got to say to you guys tonight. Understand how important it is, because my man Jermelle here, his brand, we're recruiting him into the brand building course. All right. The brand building masterclass, so that he can master the art, because we reach so many people over on the other side of metaverse. We're reaching 22 to 26 million people every single month. Once he understands how to come out there on the brand and will be groomed up on that page, that's where you start getting the repetitions. Let someone else lift you up. Let someone else set the conversation up for you. And then it makes it easy. Just like when I was over at American Top Team the other day, and I let you guys get a little peek on some of the type of methods that I use when I'm working with these younger athletes, right? And just, my man, super cool kid. That's one. That's one. And we're teaching, mentoring. He said, I never did that, those interviews. He said, I don't get comfortable. After his fight, he had to do interviews, but offset, like having the choice to do. And he said, you made that so easy. We talk so much shit. I haven't aired the interview and the conversation because he was supposed to fight this weekend. The fight got moved to next month. So you guys will get to see that. And if you want to tune in and really hear some real fight stuff, some real philosophy and in Scientology, let's just call it that, because it's science. It's not the religious Scientology, but it's so much science. And we're talking intellectual property kind of science. I can't wait to give you guys the behind the scenes of that whole experience that I know is going to help you. And you're going to get the confidence to build and be your authentic self. And you're going to keep taking it to new levels. Don't sit at the level that you're sitting at. It's time to get comfortable being uncomfortable, so that you can actually see what your actual quest is. Damn your mission. You're going to do that anyway. That's the reason why you watch this, because the only people that watch me are people who want to be authentic to themselves, and they want to learn the science, and they want all of the smoke, because they know that's what I give them here. That's what you learn here, how to be that guy. So that's why I know you're going to get comfortable being uncomfortable. That's all I got. I want all of you guys to reach higher, feel okay, keep touching people, keep waking people up, support yourself. Don't forget about you, because nobody else is going to lift you up when you're falling on your face. And when you're falling on your face, remember one thing: you still got your feet. Stand on them. Just like we talked about at the beginning, first you have to crawl, then you have to stand, and then you have to stumble before you get to walk, and then you start to jog before you start to run, and then your ass can sprint to the unlimited finish lines, because there is not one. Push the limits. That's all I got. Continue blessings. If this gave you something and you are able to relate to it, make sure you hit that like and continue to follow for more as we feed you every single thing that you're going to need. The 3 things that you must do at all times when a fighter is longer than you is: number 1, jab under their jab. Don't jab with them high. Number 2, circle in order to close the gap so that they don't understand the trajectory in which you're going to enter their front door from the side. And number three, never press them to close the gap. If you are trying to get inside of that reach, you walk them backwards into your punch. And they won't even realize it's time for them to get hit with the bumper. That's how you prevent from being the huckleberry. If you chase them, they will set you up. If you pull them to you, you'll walk them into the trap. And that's how they take naps. And those are the three tips when you're fighting against another tight level guy who's longer, stronger. Use those three tips, and I guarantee you, if you do them enough reps, you got to get the reps in and train in the proper way. If you don't know what that looks like, make sure you subscribe, and we're giving you a bunch of free content for you to use that actually has principles and skill, so you don't just get a skill, but you get the actual, not only the techniques, not just the skill, but the understanding on repetition that goes into it, and the process in which you actually do it, to execute it, to get it in your body, not just to be able to do it on Instagram and get a lot of views, but to know how to use that thing in a square circle so you can make that other dude be the one that lose. So long. Be blessed at Godspeed. I love you back. You're welcome.